Take a glance at Scott Cummings' record and you would be forgiven for thinking you were perusing the career of a full forward of the ilk of Lockett and Dunstall. Cummings kicked 8 goals in his first game. He won a Coleman medal. He kicked 5 or more goals 20 times, and he is one of only 14 players to boot 14 goals in a game. Take a more detailed look at his career and you ask yourself, why only 128 games? Why 4 clubs? Answers please, Scott.
Well, it's probably you have to ask other people, to be perfectly honest with you. Essendon was 3 years there, but had a couple of handy players coming through. I didn't have a great relationship with the coach.
Okay, but the handy players were being Lloyd and Lucas.
Yeah. And they went on to have fairly decent careers.
They did. And the coach was Sheeds.
Yeah, coach was Sheeds, and you know, relationship wasn't strong there. He didn't really rate me as a footballer, I don't think. And
he drafted you.
Yeah, well, he didn't. Yeah, Noel Judkins and the recruiting team probably did with his approval. But you know, I had troubles understanding Kev, and he didn't know how to break through to me. But you know, I tried. I didn't want to leave the football club. I tried to stay, and was offered a contract at the 11th hour before the trade deadline, and agreed to it over the phone. And then my manager rang me and said, Port Geelong, pick a club. I said, no, I've just spoken with them, and they've offered me a deal. And he said, I don't think they expected you to accept that deal, which you should have. And it's Port Geelong, pick a club. We've got 13 hours to decide. So that was the last I'd heard from Essendon, which was disappointing. But the way it was handled, and I'd never experienced something like that, so I was pretty angry. But
what was the problem between you and Sheeds?
It's a hard one to put my finger on.
Did you work hard enough?
I thought so, yeah. I mean, I've got this reputation, the fact that I didn't. But when I had to train, I trained. And when I did my weights, I would do my weights. And it's because you enjoy yourself off-field doesn't mean that you don't come and do the work when you have to. So I'm not sure. I didn't understand anything that Sheeds wanted from me. I'd go in and talk to him, and I'd walk out confused. And when I thought that I'd given him the answers to, you know, and shown him what he wanted me to do, it wasn't right. And so it was hard. But I was only a young kid. I was just trying to find my way. You know, I'd found a mum and dad's house to Melbourne, which was frightening to me at the time. It took me probably 4 or 5 months to not want to go home. Yeah, so it's a difficult thing, and it's a big time to grow up as well. So while I'm sitting there thinking maybe I don't understand what the coach is saying, maybe the coach is looking at me going, this bloke's got to grow up, or this bloke's got to you know, do better or work harder maybe. But
well, was he right about growing up, and what was your behaviour like between games?
You know, we'd go out after, you know, every game you'd go out with the boys, and, you know, there was a group of guys that showed me the ropes in Melbourne, and you'd go out and you have a good time. You go back to the footy club on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, go and have a feed, social club out to the local haunts, and away you'd go. But I never drank during the week, anything like that. I always finished on a Sunday. So if you get one in, you get one in. But you just get a reputation for having fun. And when you do muck around and you have a good time and you like a laugh, those sorts of things just flow on from that.
They stay with you.
Yeah, they stay with you.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather be laughing though than being miserable.
Yeah, you haven't been laughing much recently, but we'll get to that. The Essendon situation I can understand a bit because Port Adelaide were coming into the competition. Yeah. Essendon was able to get 2 draft picks in the top 30 in exchange for you, and those draft picks turned into Chris Heffernan and Jason Johnson.
Premiership players.
Yeah, pretty good players. Yeah,
great.
But you had 4 clubs in 9 years. What happened at Port Adelaide?
I don't know. I again had a good year in '97. Kicked a lot of goals, and then that pre-season, and we went away to London for our footy trip, and might surprise you, but I put a couple of kilos on in that time, and then I took my foot off the pedal. So that was my fault. I took my foot off the pedal in pre-season, '97 going into the '98 season, and I just thought that it was just going to get better as it did last year. You know, I've gone from kicking 30-odd goals to 70, and it's just going to keep getting better for me now because I'm getting a game every week, and I didn't do the work. I didn't do enough work, and so I hit a bit of a form slump in '98, and it was getting barrage from everywhere media-wise, and people were coming for you, and I'm an idiot who read them, and then get my back up and just handled it all wrong.
What's that mean?
Well, I let people who don't pick the team, who I don't see and really have no relevance in my life, I let them decide my mood. Mm-hmm. I let them decide my mindset going into a game of footy. And you just can't do that. Yeah. These people aren't, they're not important to how you go about your life.
Okay. So you put Adelaide, you end up at West Coast, which is probably where you played your best footy.
Yeah, no doubt, yeah.
You averaged 3.5 goals a game at West Coast and won a Coleman medal.
Under Mick Malthouse. And I grew up, obviously in Perth, and when Mick came to the Eagles in 1990, it was frightening to me as a young kid coming through. I was so intimidated by him. I never met him. And so then when I got the call from Port Adelaide to tell me that I was a required player and not to worry about required required players. It's the players' equivalent of the coach having the full support of the board. You don't want that. They said Mick's been calling. He's interested. And I said, well, what does it matter? I don't want to leave Port Adelaide. Long story short, I spoke to Mick, and he said, well, they're trying to trade you. I went, yeah, I know, Mick, I know. Yeah, sure. I had no idea. But and then when I met with him, and as soon as I sat down with him, I just went, geez, how good's this bloke? The best thing about Mick Malthouse is he understands what makes each individual tick, and he'll go the time. It's not a blanket rule. It's not a my way or the highway. He'll sit down and understand what makes you tick, to what makes you tick, to makes you. And he got me. And I know you might not have seen it very often, Mike, but he's got a wicked sense of humour, Mick.
No, I haven't seen it.
But he's got a great sense of humour, and as long as you know when to deliver that humour, then you'll be okay. And I mean, he's the best coach I had by a good stretch.
Well, and the figures say that.
I mean, I enjoyed my footy.
You won a Coleman medal with the Eagles, and in one period, Scotty, you kicked 14 goals one week, quiet one the next with 1, and then 10.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the numbers of a bloke who's really good at his craft.
Yeah, that was the year later. It was 2000, and it was a good run. The night of 14 at the Wacker, the boys were just good, dominating, and we beat Adelaide by a lot. The disappointing one, which I joke about now, is it's all about consistency and backing up. So to go to Geelong and kick 1 was a great effort. I think Ben Graham kicked 1 too, so might be actually net 0. Yeah. But then the week after in the Derby was really good as well. So a bit inconsistent, but good fun.
Then you finished. Mick obviously attracted you to Collingwood, your fourth club. Only played a half dozen games. It was sort of over for you then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Well, the disappointing thing was that when the Eagles delisted me, and the way that happened too was disappointing, and I wasn't overly wrapped with that. And so they delisted me. So I had 3 months. I had to go get a personal trainer. And it goes against everything I stand for. Right? You're going to pay someone to flog you, and this guy was a tiny little man, but ex-SAS, ex-Navy diver, was mad and got me in the best nick I've ever been in my lifetime. And so came the week of, it was December draft for the recycled players then. I trained with the Pies and I was absolutely flying. But then, and then I did my first hamstring ever, round 2 of 2002, and it just started going from there. So I think I'd probably overloaded in that 3-month period, and unfortunately, couldn't get enough footy out.
Tell me how you look back on your playing career. I mean, those figures I quoted before, they are elite figures for a bloke playing full forward. Yet I suspect that you should be dissatisfied with the end result of your career.
Yeah, probably. I don't live like that, though. And you can't live like that. If I sat back now and started going, what if this and what if that, what if that, I needed to have certain things in my life to be able to play the 128 games that I played. If I went through stages where I said, right, I'm not going to drink all year. I'm not going to drink all year. I'm going to really knuckle down. I reckon I got 4 weeks in and couldn't touch the footy. I was miserable and couldn't get anywhere. And I'm not saying drinking makes me happy. I'm just saying that I needed a release. I needed an outlet somewhere, whether it's going out with the boys and having fun, or going to the movies, or having a drink here, or going out for dinner. You need those sorts of things. I wasn't a live and breathe. I need to sleep with this football under my arm every night, and I need to watch game tape, and I wasn't that sort of person. I needed a release. So if I went down that path, maybe I wouldn't have played 50 games because I would have fried myself. So, I don't know. At the end of the day, regrets are just not something I run with.
Accept that, and you've moved on. How would you describe your career in a word? Satisfying, fulfilment. What is there a?
I've never really thought about it, to be honest with you. Solid.
Yeah, solid. Yeah, which is appropriate. Yeah. Sorry. Cheap joke. I want to ask you about when you went to Port Adelaide. You played in the first showdown.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
You're playing full forward for Port Adelaide.
You're an
What are you
average
saying?
bloke. Yeah, I did.
And you played on Rod Jamison.
Yeah.
Now, something happened that turned that confrontation into a brawl.
Yeah. Jamo, he's got a very short fuse.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He's a good player. And Jamo and I were working together. We were doing Monday and Friday slots on radio together with 5AA, and I got on really well with him. They were under enormous amount of pressure coming into that game, Adelaide, about the new boys. And unless you're in Adelaide, I don't think people understand the complete hatred of these two supporter groups. So the pressure was on Adelaide. We were coming through as the guys who weren't supposed to do any good. And so there was a lot of niggle out there. There was a lot of pressure. And again, might surprise you, I didn't mind a chat. I didn't mind saying a few things. But it wasn't me that said the final thing.
What was the final thing?
Well, I don't know what it was, but I know who it was who said it.
No, Brendan Lade denies that.
Brendan Lade is a liar then. So let me tell you right now. Because Brendan Lade, he was the one behind me who said the last thing, I can't remember what it was, but it ultimately resulted in me in my head of my jumper and fending off uppercuts.
You're adamant that it was Brendan Lade and not you
that
was the provocateur.
Well, listen, I might have started a lot of it and may have been the main contributor during most of it, but it was that big unit behind me who said something, I don't remember what it was either, but that was just, I was turned around, I'm like, that was him.
Jamison says he was offended that you were the new kid, first game in those colours, and you were mouthing off.
Oh, fair enough too. Okay. And there's a bloke who's stood up for his footy club and himself and wanted to lay the rules. We just didn't agree with them.
Let's go to a more comfortable subject. What about podcasts? Now, podcasts between blokes who have come from a sporting background are generally the guys shooting the breeze.
Yeah.
Occasionally the breeze turns into a cyclone. And that's what happened to you recently with the Hump Day program that you were doing with Dane Swan.
Yep.
It's thrown your life into confusion, hasn't it?
Oh, it's thrown it into turmoil, to be perfectly honest,
now, you were perceived to have said things that were clearly demeaning to women. You tell me why they weren't. I mean, I've seen the...
No, I'm not saying they weren't. I'm not saying they weren't, because at the time, and this is the disappointing thing I'm disappointed myself about, is that at the time I didn't see that they were
demanding because... For us. You're on with Dane Swan and Ralphie Horowitz is the producer?
Yeah, for some reason we started getting into a thing called Urban Dictionary. So we didn't write any of the things that we said, but... and it's basically made up sexual positions.
Right.
And listeners got involved and we're laughing at the sheer ridiculous. This is me in the time at the moment, right? Laughing at the sheer ridiculousness of these things, and we'd actually say on each one, surely no one's doing this stuff. This is wrong, and it was sick that is, and it's twisted. And then when it all turned pear-shaped.
That was how many days after the podcast?
Oh, well, we'd done 21 shows.
Yeah.
And there was one that upset some people.
When you left the podcast that day, did you think that you were sitting on a time bomb or not?
Not, and this is the thing I'm disappointed about, right? Because, no, I didn't, because I know what's in my head, and I know it's in Swanee's, I know it's in Ralphie's. I know that we meant no harm. Our intention was no harm at all, and we're laughing at the sheer ridiculousness of things. But when I saw it in writing, Mike, I felt crook in the guts. Because when you're saying something and you know it's in your head, you think, well, that's okay. I didn't mean anything bad by that. And when I saw it in the paper, not the first couple of articles that were just, that set it all off, but one where we actually got quoted correctly, I felt sick. I read it and just went, oh my God, that sounds just terrible, and I was embarrassed and ashamed. And since that point, I've had to educate myself on on the issue. To be linked to domestic violence or sexual assault when I hope I'm like 98% of men. I wish it was 100, but the numbers say it's not. To find it so abhorrent, so violent and so cowardly to assault women in any way, whether it's physical violence or sexual violence or verbally or financially. And it's horrible. And most of us think the same. But to be linked to that, I felt so sick.
But Scotty, from the outside looking in, and I've checked the dialogue, it was, in general terms, it was about sexual positions and male bullying. Do you agree with that?
I do now. I do. And like I said, I've had to educate myself on the language. Like the acts themselves, I find appalling. I need to, and I've started educating myself on the language used. So I don't think that any normal, sane human being would have been influenced by what we said. But there are a small percentage that possibly could have. And if one person thought what we were saying was a good idea to do, well, that's one too many, and I've stuffed up big time, which I've accepted and I've apologised for, and unreservedly apologised for.
That was the apology on Twitter?
Yeah. It was everywhere. It was, and I haven't touched Twitter since.
And that wasn't one of those, if you're offended, I apologise. That was a heartfelt...
Yeah, no, it was. I was distraught. That day I'd flown to Adelaide to go to work, and I found myself sitting below the office, and I couldn't go in and face anyone in the office, and I just rang a couple of people and said, look, I'm going to go home. So I booked my own flight and just returned back to Melbourne and locked myself in my room for probably 4 or 5 days. Did you? So it was the darkest period of my life by a mile.
Yeah, I can understand
so
that.
People, you want people to understand that when you go after people like this because they've made a mistake, and I fully accept I made a mistake, the ramifications are big. They're big.
Well, you lost your job at 3AW.
Yeah.
Is your normal Monday to Friday job, was that in any jeopardy?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge jeopardy.
Is that settled now?
Yeah, we've come to a conclusion on that.
Okay.
So
let me say,
to work, but that was enormous. I lost Croc Media as well.
Croc Media, yeah.
So lost a lot.
And the other thing that I've just learnt recently, which staggered me, that you lost your job as the coach of one of your boys under 12 footy teams. How did that feel? I mean, that's almost the most humiliating of the lot, isn't it?
It probably hurt me the most.
Yeah.
Because I love those little blokes. They're awesome kids, and they were having a really tough year. They hadn't won a game, but their improvement from round one to where we got to was just enormous. I was so proud of them, and they meant a lot to me. So to have, apparently it was a split committee. To have people who don't know me, who have read what they've read, decide that was really hurt me.
So the secretary rang you? Is that
no, President. They came and saw me.
Yeah.
And President and acting President of the sports club that embodies it all, they came and sat down and had a chat and said, look, it's probably not going to go your way if it gets escalated. I said, what do you want to do? I said, well, it's under 12s footy. Let's leave the boys alone. Let's, if you want me to go, I'll go. So, but that enormous support from the parent group which was phenomenal, and that helped a lot. But that was probably one of the biggest kicks in the guts.
Yeah. How did you explain that to your boy?
Well, I had no choice but to say, listen, I've stuffed up, and I had to address the boys as well. I say, look, I'm not quitting on you. I don't want to leave you, but I've made a big mistake. All right, and I've said some things I didn't mean to say, and I'm going to pay a big price for it. And I'm really sorry, fellas. So I had to take ownership. These boys need to know, and that's probably part of the learning curve for me, but also for them. These are 11-year-old boys. But it starts there. It starts there, and so they need to know that I'd made a big mistake, and but I'm owning my mistake, and we get on with it. So. Yeah.
But wouldn't your boy have said, "What did you do, Dad?" I mean,
and and
how do you explain to an 11-year-old?
Well, you don't. I protected him from that, and protected him from a lot of the backlash at the time. And I basically said to him, I said some things that I didn't mean, and they're wrong, and they've come across really poorly, and I wasn't thinking, and Dad's made a big mistake, mate.
What did Naomi, your wife, happen to say? I'm sorry, I know it's painful.
No, it's just all the other stuff I can talk about, like losing OW, losing Croc. This is the disappointing bit, you know. My wife having to deal with that upsets me. Family, that upset me.
I can understand that. I mean, my view of Scotty Cummings has always been, you're like Billy Brownless. You're a big, cuddly teddy bear. You can run off at the mouth, but there's never any malice in it.
No.
And I think you're sort of sitting now, even still, sort of saying, how did I end up in this firestorm?
Yeah. Well, I put myself there, but I didn't mean to. And but my wife's, she's the staunchest woman in the world. She's so strong.
When she first heard, though, what you'd said, what was her reaction then?
She probably said for a couple of weeks, she goes, you're getting a bit loose. It's getting a bit loose. You probably should, pull up. I said, I'm just having fun. It's just a joke, no, but she's the most amazing human being in the world. She's a strong girl, and she was more upset that because obviously no one knows me more than she does. So she was upset, and she saw how hard I was working this year, and so she was upset that people could flip our lives on its head so quickly, so brutally. So she was upset about that, and then of course she was worried about financial position and all that sort of thing. But I wouldn't have got through without.
No.
She's been a star.
So you stayed at home. You just wrapped yourself.
Yeah, well, like I said, I locked myself in my room for 4 or 5 days.
Literally?
I didn't barely left my bedroom. Just stood there, just sat there, reading messages from so many people.
That make you feel better, obviously.
Oh yeah, and some just left you in tears.
Yeah.
When you go through something like this, you know your mates.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I hope this comes out the right way. I didn't know I had that many. My support was phenomenal, and words from people. I was reading some messages, just left me in tears.
People do like you though. Even though you can flip.
Yeah, I think I've certainly found that out. That I've got a lot of people in my corner, and geez, I would have been in a lot of trouble without it because my phone didn't stop. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to address it. I didn't want to look at things. I couldn't speak to my mum for 2 weeks.
Yeah. What was she? She was ringing.
I was ashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah. To talk to her.
Isn't it? It's. I knew it took a toll on you, but it's.
Oh
really,
yeah.
It's cut you deeply, hasn't it?
Big time.
The last one on this. A bloke called Justin Smith, who you know know through your association at 3AW, wrote this in a really scathing column. The problem was normalising rape as a legitimate sexual activity. Right, that's one. And further down, it makes the Cummings apology look completely worthless. You read that column.
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
Well, it was 4 weeks after it all happened. And so for the first 2 weeks, like I said, I was broken. And then for that next 2 weeks, I've got myself off the mat and I'm going, no, this is not going to define me. I will fix this. I'm going to start being positive again. I start being myself again. And then at the end of that 2 weeks, I was going to a charity golf day and helping out Scotty Waters at Life Changer and doing the auction there for him after the round. And I woke up in the morning and I had a message from Swanee, who was...
Dane Swan?
Who was struggling over there in Europe for summer and asking, who the hell is Justin Smith? And as soon as I just read that, I'm just going, oh, what now? No, it can't be there. And there's nothing more. And and I get an article like that suggesting I need to find out what sort of man I am. Mm. Well, and to apologise, I read the article and I said, I'm not sure what more he wants from me, this bloke. I've unreservedly apologised. I've lost most things. I am sorry. And I'm going to educate myself on these things.
How do you do that?
I went and met with Domestic Violence Victoria. I met with Our Watch, and I've met with White Ribbon, and I've just started a course with White Ribbon. Finished the first part of that course, learning about the numbers and the statistics. I'm doing these things not because I want to make people believe that I'm doing my best. I want to know. I want to. I was clearly ignorant on the issues, so I'm doing something about it. And so when I read that, I've just gone, I'm not sure what more this bloke wants from me.
Did you ring him?
No, well, he didn't ring me.
You mentioned Swanee's swanning around in Europe, or has been.
He's been Swanee.
How was How was his reaction? How did he interpret all this?
Swanee's a good man. He's a good man. He was disappointed, obviously, with what's happened, and he got angry with what's happened because he knows as well how he feels about it. He knows what he thinks about it, and he just he refuses to link himself to that because he's not a perpetrator, or it's pretty hard to speak for him. But Swanee's a pretty relaxed unit. He's never going to die of a heart attack, Swanee.
But most people would have thought that about you too. I think.
Yeah, but I care more about. Swanee's still a young bloke who doesn't have kids and any stuff like that. I mean, I've got a family I've got to look after. I've got a wife, that needs me, and I need her. But Swanee's still a young guy. He's 10 years younger than us, sort of thing. Maybe a little less than that. But and living the dream, and that's how he wants to roll. And I half envy it.
Yeah.
To be that relaxed.
Yeah.
But mate, just let Swanee be Swanee because he's.
You are who you are.
Yeah. He has got a good heart and he's a good man.
Let me talk to you about Pucker Up.
Get me crying again. Pucker Up taught me how to cry.
Well, it's something that I think you got involved with coincidentally. Well, it is
Yeah.
you. You've been involved in that longer than this other storm. Wayne Swass is the principal of Pucker Up. Wayne Swass says you're an ignorant prick, right? And you know what? In the same sense, he says he loves you.
Yeah.
He says he genuinely loves you and the things that you've contributed to Pucker Up, which focuses on mental health.
Yeah.
And the thing that staggered me, most recently you've ridden 1,800 Ks on a bike in the interest of Pucker Up and mental health.
Don't think this rig's built for a bike ride? What are you saying?
Not too many hills in there, mate.
Oh, there's so many hills. We climbed up Mount Hotham on a bike, and I'll get to that. But Swatter was right. And the reason is I started working with Swatter on a croc media show, and just hit it off really well. And then we started talking about his stuff with Pucker Up, and Corey McKernan rang me and asked me about a golf day and for Pucker Up. I said, "Oh, mate, I'd love to. Yeah, whatever I can do to help, I'll be there." And he gave me the date. Couldn't do it. And he said, "I said, what else you got? If I can help Swatter, just let me know." And he goes, "Oh, I've got something else. You might not be interested. We're riding from Sydney to Melbourne." I said, "Riding what?" And he said, "Riding push bikes." I went, "All right." Well, and I'd done one a couple of years earlier in the Pilbara, 600 k's from Port Hedland to Onslow for another organisation, the IF Foundation. And I thought, well, hang on, you know what? I'm not out of this. It's 900 k's Sydney to Melbourne. I'm not out of this. Let me talk to Swatter and I'll get back to you. And he said, I was looking for that next year. I need something to work towards.
Yep.
Otherwise, I might let myself go a little more. And I rang Swatter and we spoke for probably 20 minutes. And he started telling me what he's doing and why he's doing it and that sort of thing. And I reckon within 8 minutes he got me. I was in.
This is on the suicide.
Yeah. And then he started talking about mental health, and I'm sitting there going, geez, I know nothing about this. I know nothing. And he explained to me, and the one thing that got me more than anything is that he said that for 12 of his 14-year football career, which was a great career, he couldn't tell anyone. And he was battling depression. He was suicidal. But he couldn't talk to anyone at his footy club in fear of judgment. Because we were, and I would have been exactly the same to those, those other players that we were taught in growing up to harden up, toughen up. Don't tell me your problems. You got nothing wrong with you. Come on.
And you believed that though, didn't you?
I did, because I was taught by football, I guess, in that environment, and we'd go to any sport and to stop being a pussy, harden up. You got nothing wrong with it. And I stopped and thought, if one of my teammates, and as you've discussed, I've had a lot, committed suicide because he couldn't come and talk to one of his mates, I'm not sure how you live with that. So I immersed myself into pucker up to get an understanding of it, and we did that ride that first year from Sydney to Melbourne. This year we just did the 1800 around Victoria and up Mount Hotham, and I say I climbed Mount Hotham, but I had Travis Old pretty much carrying me up. He's only just recovering now. But
what you haven't said though is you've had plenty of talks with people who might have been on the precipice.
Yeah. So I've sort of I've become I'm one of those people now who I'm trying to talk to people like me.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk to the converted because I can't fix anybody. I can't, but I can listen to them and I can say, hey, don't be scared. If you've got something you want to talk about, you go and talk about it because this is real. This is a real thing. And since it's happened, I've had a couple of mates come to me and say, mate, I'm battling. I've been struggling for a little while. And they blew me away, mate. A couple of them just blew me away, the people who were battling. So it's been probably one of the best things I've done. And I do love Swatter, even though he makes me put Lycra on and get on a bike a lot. And I want to bash him sometimes.
You and Lycra? Wow.
There's a lot of people you ride into towns, they run for the hills. They shouldn't have to see that. But no, look, pucker up's an amazing thing, and it's been an amazing education for me. And yeah.
Was there one message that touched you more than all the others? I'm sure they were all comforting, but was there one that you sort of really just?
No, not one that I'm gonna say here. Because it's pretty complimentary, and
who was it from?
Doesn't matter. But the thing is, I got, as I said to you, you find out who your mates are, and maybe I found out during this I got more than I thought I did. The support, I can't underestimate and undertell how important that was to me, how good it was to me. So. The thing is, to anyone if you've got a mate who's battling, whether they're battling in any way, or they're under attack, or they've stuffed up in a big way and they're copping it, or they've got mental health issues, just reach out, just shoot them a message. It doesn't hurt. Just reach, you okay? How you travelling? And I had people on Twitter and Insta, the listeners of the show, who legitimately send some amazing messages. And farmers who were battling, who said, it was just an hour of my week that I could forget about what's going on. And people mentioning the mental health stuff, and guys saying that I went and told my mates at the footy club because I've got the courage to do so. So those sorts of things, I think. But messages, mate, from people, all walks of life, who were all over the globe at the time, and some really good ones.
Are you done with podcasts?
The word. Oh, geez, I can hear my wife right now. Yes. Well, it'd be silly to say I'm done with podcasts. I'm done with that language.
Yes. Yeah.
I have to be done with that language, and which is why, like I said, I've got to learn about that. I've got to learn about the conversations. It's not like the pucker up stuff. Where with pucker up, I started from dead zero, and I've worked myself to there, got immersed, understand it, and know how to handle it better with people. With domestic violence and, of course, sexual violence and that sort of thing, I'm already there but I need to correct my language and my tones because, as I said, if one person thought that because of what he heard me saying was okay to go and do something horrendous. That's obvious. Clearly, it's one too many, and I would eradicate. If it made 1,000 people happy and laugh, but it made one person do the wrong thing, then I think you know what most people would do. I don't want to be responsible for that.
So what it says, good men can make the occasional bad decision. I hope I speak for most people in football. You are a good person, and people like you, and bad things can happen. And I'm with you, mate. I hope that you emerge from this with your old dignity and with your old enthusiasm.
Thank you, mate.
And I appreciate your honesty. Thanks, Scotty.
Thanks for making me cry.
This has been a Fox Sports production.